Welcome to Prime Stream, brought to you by the Independent Intelligence Alliance. Today, we're diving into a powerful new way of seeing autism, one that's based on science that's finally catching up to reality. For way too long, the whole conversation has been stuck in old myths. So, we're going to break down the research that's completely changing the game and showing us a much more complex and, frankly, a more human picture. At the core of so many problems is this one very human habit. We love to categorize things, right? To put people and experiences into these neat little boxes. Good, bad, right, wrong. But when you're talking about something as complex as the human mind, this isn't just a failure of imagination. It's actually a failure of science. Okay, so this slide really gets to the heart of it. On the left, you've got the old way of thinking that has shaped pretty much everything for decades. This simple, straight line from mild to severe, and it's all focused on what's wrong. But the research from the Independent Intelligence Alliance gives us the model on the right, a multidimensional, strengths-based view. And trust me, it changes everything. So to really get this shift, we're going to walk through 6 key ideas. We'll start by moving beyond simple labels. Then we'll debunk that huge myth that the spectrum is a line. We'll talk about the lost generation of autistic girls, get into the biological reality of it all, and then we'll flip the deficit script to uncover some hidden strengths. And finally, we'll look at how we can actually build a better world. All right, first up, moving beyond simple labels. Now, this isn't just some abstract idea. It's a real call to action, and it's inspired by the upcoming theme for World Autism Awareness Day. So, the theme for 2026 is Autism and Humanity. Every life has value. And this isn't just a nice slogan, It's really a mandate to push past that surface-level awareness and get into a phase of real, deep understanding. It's about valuing every single person, exactly as they are. And that push for deeper understanding brings us right to our second point. And it means we have to take on the biggest myth of all, this idea that the autism spectrum is just a simple, straight line. A lot of us still picture this in our heads, right? A single line where you're either a little bit autistic on one end or very autistic on the other. You hear terms like high functioning or low functioning. Well, that whole model, it's not just unhelpful, it's been scientifically obsolete for years. The reality is so much cooler. It's more like a sound mixing board, with all those different sliders. One person might have the slider for sensory processing cranked all the way up, making things really challenging, but their slider for, say, cognitive abilities is also way up high. Communication style, social interpretation, those are their own separate controls. It's not about being more or less autistic, it's about having a unique profile, a one-of-a-kind mix. There's this quote from the research that just nails it. Each autistic person represents a unique configuration, not a position on a single axis. See? It's about a specific wiring of the human brain, not just some point on a line. Now, this flawed linear model wasn't just inaccurate. It had devastating consequences. And this is especially true for what a lot of people are now calling the lost generation of girls, whose autism was just completely missed for years. The main reason for this is a phenomenon called masking. Okay? Just imagine having to manually calculate and perform every single social interaction, every smile, every nod, figuring out when to talk. It is an unbelievably exhausting process of just trying to blend in. And it's a process that autistic girls, because of social pressures, often become absolute masters at. So what that means is that quiet, well-behaved girl in the classroom, she might not be neurotypical at all. She might be autistic and using every single drop of her energy just to fit in. And as this quote says, that external conformity comes at a massive internal price, often leading to burnout, depression, and severe anxiety later in life. Right. So this whole internal experience is deeply rooted in biology. Our fourth point here is about getting that the autistic experience, especially when it comes to sensory stuff, is not a choice. It's not a behavioral issue. It is a biological reality. For a lot of autistic people, the world just gets processed at one of two extremes. With hypersensitivity, the hum of a refrigerator isn't just an annoyance. It can feel like a fire alarm going off. The flicker of a fluorescent light can be physically painful. And then on the other end, hyposensitivity means someone might actually seek out really intense input, like loud music or deep pressure, just to feel grounded in their own body. A meltdown isn't a tantrum. It's a neurological system in total crisis. So, if we can understand these biological differences, then we can move on to our fifth point and do something really powerful. We can flip the deficit script. We can stop focusing only on the challenges and start seeing the incredible strengths. For decades, the medical model has been completely obsessed with lists, just like this one. Traits like avoiding eye contact or engaging in repetitive behaviors. They've all been pathologized. They've been framed exclusively as things that are wrong and that need to be fixed. But what happens when we reframe those exact same traits? Maybe that so-called poor eye contact is actually what allows for exceptional pattern recognition because you're not distracted. Maybe that intense focus on one thing is the very thing that leads to deep, sustained attention, the kind you need for true mastery. All of a sudden, what we've been calling deficits start to look a lot like the other side of some incredible cognitive advantages. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section. How do we take all this knowledge and actually use it to build a better world? Well, the answer is simple in concept, but totally revolutionary in practice. We adapt our systems. We don't try to fix people. This quote is really the core idea of the entire neurodiversity movement. The goal isn't to force every single person to act and think in one correct way. It's about creating environments where every type of mind can actually flourish. So what does that actually look like? Well, it means having flexible communication where clarity is valued more than social games. It means creating sensory-friendly spaces with better lighting and less noise. In schools and workplaces, it means judging people on the quality of their work, not on how good they are at small talk. And it means giving people autonomy through things like remote work to prevent that sensory and social burnout. And look, this isn't a niche issue we're talking about. With a global diagnostic rate of 1 in 127 people, autism is a significant, natural part of human diversity. The changes we're talking about aren't just for a small group. They are changes that end up making our world more humane and more effective for everybody. So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. It's really not enough anymore to just be aware of autism. The real challenge now is this. How can we actively start to dismantle the rigid, one-size-fits-all systems that demand everyone be the same, and finally build a society that genuinely values every single configuration of the human mind? If this explainer shifted your perspective even a little bit, please share it. Follow Prime Stream for more deep dives from the Independent Intelligence Alliance and join the conversation. Thanks for taking the time to really understand this with us.